Are you confused about healing your body? What works best for you? You'll hear one doctor say, only eat vegetables. And then you'll eat another one that says, no, no, you need to eat only meat. Or then you'll have somebody, no, you need to eat both. Sometimes it can be very confusing that all of these professionals use science to back them up. And so it can become very confusing for you, for me. And honestly, what I've discovered is what works for me may not work for you. And so, how do you discern, especially if you have cancer, what is best for you? I just recently went to the Best Answers for Cancer, Annie Appleseed Project, back-to-back conferences, and I was able to meet so many wonderful people that help guide and coach during these difficult times. And I made a commitment that I was going to bring many of these people to the classroom. One in particular, today we have Zakariya Frank. He is the director of, I call him the director of marketing, but he's the chief marketing officer of beatcancer.org. That's beatcancer.org. And we're going to discuss what the organization is doing and how maybe you might be interested in learning more for you or your friend or for a career. Just never know. Here we go. It's time to learn and grow together.
And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
Hi, my name is Lillian McDermott, and I am a certified life coach and the host of the Lillian McDermott radio show, Classroom. If this is your first time in the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Well, as I mentioned, I've met some wonderful people just recently, and I am bringing them to you. And I'm excited that, it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge. And because of that, Zakariya Frank is here to do just that. Welcome to the classroom, Zakariya.
Thank you very much for having me, Lily. It's a pleasure to be here. Absolutely.
Yes, yes. So everybody has a story because not everybody wakes up one day and go, you know what, I want to be on the holistic side of cancer or the other side of cancer, conventional side of cancer. Somebody has a story. So share a little bit about your background and what led you to where you're at today.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily have a particular story that got me into the realm of cancer specifically, right? I've never faced a cancer diagnosis or concern myself, thank God, of course. But health is very important to me overall, and health overall is inherently tied to cancer. And my interest in holistic health and wellness started, I guess you could say, at a young age. I always had an intuitive, healthy distrust of mainstream medical things. I never wanted to have things put into me in my arms or anything. I never wanted to pop an Advil or a Tylenol if I had a headache. That was never my style. I never quite knew just how right I was, though, with that intuition until I got older and I started to just really learn a thing or two about the way the world worked. I really learned what's going on with the food systems, what's going on in the water, what's going on in the different things in the world. And I just really started to dive headfirst into what does it take to be healthy? And why isn't the world healthy? What's going on? And the more I learned, the more I had to start making changes because the way I see it is I love myself. I love myself very much. So, in the face of the new knowledge I was exposing myself to, how could I not make changes to improve my health? And so I just started learning on an individual level different things about health, different facets of men's health, women's health, children's health, animals' health, what have you, just on a personal level. Had a bit of an entrepreneurial myriad of things that I got into after I left the corporate world after university. And it just so happened that during one of the periods of my life where I was looking for the next venture to dive into, through a networking event, I happened to meet the CEO of beatcancer.org, the organization I'm with now. We hit it off. instantly clicked. He's a wonderful man, and he was looking for someone to go, into business with and work with, and I was looking for something to work with as well. So that's what brought me to this organization specifically.
Well, that's wonderful. You know that most people know somebody that has cancer or that you've been shielded that way. That's amazing. The second thing I want to say is I love the fact that you can recognize that you love yourself very much. And that is something that I've done classes on where people like, I don't know, maybe my generation, because I'm older than you, much older than you, where we were taught that you need to put other people's first, and if you put yourself first, you're selfish. And so those are the programming that we need to rewrite the programming in our mind and how we view ourselves. But it's nice to know that you're starting from a place of love. um, right off the bat, we'll start off a place of love. And when you love yourself, then there's room to really love others abundantly. So good on you.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point, right? If your bucket's not full, how can you fill others? And you can't, even if you can, you're not going to be able to do it with longevity. So it really all starts from within. It's wonderful. We are social creatures. We are meant to have each other's backs, but you have to have your own first.
Yeah.
That's the core, you know, important thing. If you're not coming from a place of inner strength and inner love and inner peace, you're not really ever even going to be able to be most effective in helping others. So it's absolutely essential. And I love the language that you use towards these topics.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so beatcancer.org. Now, I don't know if I shared this with you. I have a foundation that's called the McDermott Holistic Healing Foundation. And our goal when we started was to help pay for holistic treatment because, the insurance pays for conventional treatment, but does not pay for anything. And when it comes to outside of that. But what people don't understand is that with cancer, um, there's a lot of out-of-pocket expenses. And so you could either use your out-of-pocket expenses to do something more natural, more holistically, or more inclined to what works for you, or you can use the money to buy whatever it is, out-of-pocket expenses for conventional. We started doing that, and we thought we're going to pay for these treatments, but most people are looking at the conventional, like the Susan G. Komans and all of that. So we kind of put a little hiatus on the foundation, and we're bringing it back. So we know the importance of having someone guiding you along the way. So what is beatcancer.org? What's the mission statement? And so that if somebody who's never heard of it, they're hearing it for the first time.
Absolutely. So our mission is that we believe, to put it very gently, we know that at least 90% of cancer cases can be eliminated through basic diet and lifestyle changes. And the science agrees. That's a big part of it. I am not myself personally a science nerd, if you will. I don't have to see your sources, cite your studies, this and that, because unfortunately, the world of science is quite corrupt as well. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of science and research and information and knowledge, both in the modern world and also from ancient times, that is effective, or knowledge on different things that are effective at preventing or healing cancer. So our mission is not, hey, we want to do more research. Let's take the research, take the knowledge that would already exist, either our founder has done or whomever else, and get it to the end user. So we are an educational nonprofit. The money that comes into the organization goes to educating, getting the info in the hands and in the minds of the people that need it at the end consumer level. And we do that in a variety of ways that I can go into, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so I could talk about our beginnings if you'd like, because that kind of gets a picture of where we come from, or I could talk about what we do now. What should you prefer?
Well, you can start with your mission statement. So your mission statement is to bring this education to the end user,
Yeah.
right? But is there anything more that you guys want to achieve with that?
Yeah, I mean, it starts kind of from the ground up. Change happens from the ground up. We're not going to go and say, we need to change this policy, we need to change this insurance company, we need to change all these places, institutions. The institutions can do whatever they want. But if we empower the people with the right knowledge to heal themselves, whether they have cancer already or they just want to make sure they prevent it, perhaps they're concerned about getting cancer, if we teach them what we teach them, and they use that information to change their own life and live an empowered and healthy existence themselves, well, that creates generational ripples around that one person. They're going to hopefully now lead their children into health. Their children's children will then be led into health, and their children's children will then have a comprehension of what it means to actually be healthy in a holistic regard, instead of having to rely on the disempowered nature of how these other health institutions have kind of led society to feel. And then that generational change is how really the world changes as a whole. So we start small, we start one person at a time, one person at a time, and then the ripple effect will come as a macro from there.
Yeah, you're talking about becoming a generational pattern shifter, which is amazing way to leave a legacy for your family. I know that generational pattern shifters, like I am a generational pattern shifter, and there's a lot of generational pattern shifters out there. They have the arrows in the back, they're the ones that get all the slinging because they go against what the family normally says is normal, and maybe they're doing something different and new. And it requires a lot of strength to do it, because if you want to fit into your family and you want to fit in with your friends, being generational pattern shifter is not necessarily the best thing for you, but ultimately it will change your life, and it will save, and it will change generations to come. So that's wonderful. So what are some of the ways that beatcancer.org does that?
So in our current form, because we've kind of gone through some iterations over the years, we've been around for almost half a century.
Yeah,
We
I
were
saw that.
founded 46 years ago, and the world then is different than the world today.
Mhm.
So when we were at our beginnings, our founder was running it by herself, giving out information in all the ways that existed 46 years ago. Books, articles, doing speaking events, in person, traveling the country, this, that, the other. Today we're in the modern age, so we kind of modernized while keeping those same tenets alive. And so one of our primary programs now is we have an in-house counselor who herself is a 35 plus year naturopathic licensed physician here in the United States, decades of experience working with clients with assorted ailments, cancer or otherwise. Wonderful woman. And anyone in the world can call and get in contact with her, and she will work one on one to counsel them if they have a cancer concern or an existing cancer diagnosis. She'll work with them, once a week, once a month, twice a month, whatever they are comfortable with. That's a free service that we offer to the
Wow.
world. That's one of our primary ones. But it doesn't just have to be that. We also have weekly calls as a group every single week, also free, also available to the public at 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays. Anyone can tune in onto a video call app, and you could either listen in if you just want to hear what we're talking about. You could ask your questions, participate in the conversation, share something, whether you have a cancer diagnosis, know someone that does, are a medical professional, or just anyone that wants to learn. I attend, my business partner Carl attends, several of our cancer coaches are there. Sometimes we have a specific topic or a guest speaker that we bring in. Sometimes it's just an open forum Q&A where we chat about, whatever the audience has going on. We will, help them through whatever's going on. Those get then recorded, posted to the organization's YouTube, along with hundreds of other videos of assorted natures, anything from special highlights on our coaches to special highlights on certain products or methods or what have you. We have dozens upon dozens, I think 50 pages of blog post listings, the podcast, so we just have any sort of educational avenue how we can get information out there for free. We do it. The group calls and the one-on-one counseling are some of the main things. And then an additional thing that we do is we sell a course. I'm not going to go too much into it, but we use the proceeds from that to fund the free programs. Obviously, it takes money to put on free things. Part of that course, we train holistic cancer coaches, and we have hundreds of holistic cancer coaches that we've trained now operating all over the world in different capacities. And that's the really exciting part of our program, because that's how we could expand our reach beyond what our small staff and small budget are able to do ourselves in a 24-hour span. When we have hundreds of coaches all over doing different things, that's what really, really is awesome about the organization, and how we can have such an expansive and ever-growing impact.
Yeah, I'm just like wondering how we could work together with the McDermott Holistic Healing Foundation, especially if you have free counseling, cancer coaches. Now, how do you have a limit to how many times you can use the coach?
So the free counseling, to be clear, is with our in-house counselor.
Yeah,
The coaches that we train are their own independent
yeah,
people
exactly.
that do whatever they do.
Yeah.
We don't really have a hard limit. It's kind of like, hey, like, please don't abuse this. Of course, she has her own working hours, and she of course has to manage her time effectively. So
Mhm.
once she's working with a patient, she will kind of set the scheduling with them. So of course she has to work within the parameters of all the patients that she's working with. But
Wow.
is there a hard limit? Hey, you only get 2 sessions? No, no.
No, that's great. That right there is huge, because there's a lot of people that are scared. I did an interview I mentioned to you with Dr. Devlin, Dr. Sean Devlin, and it's so important to have that specialized care, that someone saying to you, It's going to be okay," because it's so important to have a team that is working with you to make sure that they are cheering you on, as opposed to breathing death onto you, like, oh, unless you do 48 treatments, or unless you do 20 treatments, or whatever, then you're going to die. So you want someone that's going to say, wait a minute, that's not true, this is true. So is that kind of what the coach does, kind of like looks at what they're looking at and kind of helps them make decisions? Or how long is a coaching call?
Yeah, so that's a huge point that you just raised, and that has a lot of different things that we could explore there even.
Yeah, yeah.
Because every experience between our counselor or any coach and the patient is unique. Some patients are willing and able to go entirely the holistic route. And so they will work with our counselor as their primary consultant,
Mhm.
and also be doing independent research. Obviously, we always advocate for independent research and study, and figuring things out as well, because that's where the most empowerment comes from. Not just, hey, trust her or trust anybody. Um, some patients will go that route and have fantastic results.
Mhm.
Some patients aren't necessarily comfortable committing entirely to a holistic
Mhm.
approach.
Mhm.
So if a patient is also going to conventional oncology doctors and getting conventional oncology treatments, then our counselor or our coaches will also work with those patients as part of the team to help maintain quality of life, alleviate some of the harmful side effects from the chemo, radiation, etc. Because the same kind of things that get the body in a proper state to heal from cancer itself will also help kind of fight those side effects. So yes, a cancer coach can be or our cancer counselor can be a primary team member, or they can play a supportive role. It's different and unique depending on a patient's desires.
So very good, very good. So what is the perspective or the approach for beat cancer? So are you saying holistic is the best part, and that's the purpose of beatcancer.org? Is it a more holistic approach, or are you guys okay and work with you? You mentioned that they work with other doctors if they decide to do a more integrative approach. So do you have a particular way of eating, or do you promote what is the philosophy behind beatcancer.org?
Yeah, and this ties back to what you were wonderfully saying at the very beginning of this episode. Some people say X, some people say Y, some people say this diet, some people say that diet, some people say everything, and there's also science in all the different directions. What do you do, right? Which direction is best? Which direction do you go in? Well, what I like to say is at beatcancer.org, no matter what your kind of leaning or intuition is telling you in either of those directions, there is somebody for you. Our founder was heavily plant-based. She strongly advocated for a vegetarian or vegan diet in different parameters, and there's science to promote why that might be a good idea for cancer specifically. Because remember, when we are advocating for diets, we are mentioning in regards to cancer. Perhaps if you have a cancer concern, try this when you are back to being in a better healthy state. Perhaps then you could introduce other things. So we're not necessarily saying in any of our diet recommendations, hey, this is what you should do always and forever. But in regards to cancer, a lot of our content is plant-based. However, myself, many of our coaches, etc., are animal-based and advocate for the healthy consumption of animal proteins and fats, etc., what have you. And so that's why I'd like to say there's something for everybody. There's not necessarily, we're not a cult, right? We're not, hey, everyone in our organization has to believe and think the exact same thing. We have healthy disagreements within some of our community, but we are an educational platform for all of the good stuff. There's good stuff on that side, there's good stuff on this side. So I don't personally take a side, and a lot of our content and our founders' wishes were plant-based, but we have something for everybody. Does that answer?
Yeah, that makes sense because I can understand. I mean, when I first started this journey of to health, I was doing a radio show and someone had come into the station with raw vegan food. And it was the first time I had really considered even trying it. It looked so good. It looked so nice. And I said, let me try it. And it was so good. My mouth exploded with goodness. That's what it was so good and so delicious. And I said, hey, you shouldn't be here. These guys eat burgers and fries and drink beer for lunch. I said, you need to come on my show. Well, when he came on my show, he and I were having a conversation. He was talking about, and he brought food. That was the stipulation. He had to feed me during this time. And he challenged me to go raw vegan for 1 month. And I have the philosophy that as long as it doesn't harm my body and it's not illegal, I'm willing to try something for a month. And
Yeah.
so I started the process, which was, it's like relearning a new language. It's relearning a new language, new recipes, new ways of thinking. And I remember after 4 days, I felt really good, Zachariah, really good. But here's the deal. I didn't feel bad. I just didn't know I could feel better. I
Yeah.
didn't know. So my body has a gravitation to more vegetables. And I grew up with canned vegetables, let's just be honest. In my generation, many of us, this was like, my mom was the generation where like, oh, let's just make it easy, like easy meals, put it in the microwave, that was the generation. But my mom was an excellent cook, or was an excellent cook. She's still alive, but she doesn't cook anymore. But what I'm saying is that the vegetable portion was a very small portion, and the meat portion was a much larger portion, and there was always rice and beans, beans and rice and beans. And so going to now I'm an adult and I am feeding my family, I kind of like not went all that route because my stomach just doesn't digest red meat. But my children grew up with more vegetables and they grew up with more chicken and poultry, like turkey and fish. And so I didn't make any steak, I didn't make any of that. But I thought that was the best way of eating for me at that point. But then once I tried the raw vegan, I'm not a raw vegan foodist or anything like that now, but I did that for 3 years and it really supported my body until I got to 3 years. And so after 3 years, I started cooking my food a little bit more with Dr. Joel Furman. He's a regular on the show. And so I started, then meeting Dr. Davis, who did the Wheat Belly series, Dr. William Davis, and started learning about, oh, you can add a little bit of animal product. And so now I'm kind of like, I feel like it's more balanced in the sense that I eat a lot of vegetables, but I also maybe add a little bit of animal products whenever the opportunity comes. And that's where I'm at right now. That's why I've gone through this full circle of what's the best way of eating, when in reality, I think everybody holds that key. Have you discovered that? I mean, has that
Yeah.
happened to you?
And if you see me laughing, it's because my story is also quite similar.
Yeah.
I lived for maybe 4 or 5 years as, I never liked the phrase vegan, but I
Yeah.
lived as a
Whole food,
plant
plant-based. Yeah.
I lived as a plant eater, plant-based, whatever. And so I did that. And much like yourself, I experienced fantastic benefits at first. And really that lasted for quite a while. But that's quite interesting, right? Because what happened when I decided to go plant-based? Well, honestly, it really wasn't a decision for me. I was convinced that that was the only way to be healthy at that particular time. So my body just started saying, "Hey, like we're doing this." I kept bringing my eggs to work to eat, and I just like would take a bite and be disgusted. And so I was like, "All right, I guess I'm doing this." And I was someone that said I would never do that. I would
Me
never,
too.
ever,
Me too.
never do that. Or I would make fun of them, this and that, playfully, whatever. But it was time to do that. And I did it. And I experienced, like yourself, fantastic detoxification
Yes.
symptoms.
It
My
has a
skin,
purpose. It has a purpose. Plant-based whole
absolutely,
food, yes, it has a purpose.
absolutely. My skin got clearer. My eyesight got better. Everything felt better. Skin got better. Everything, everything, everything. But there's always that big but, right? Because this happens to a lot of people. They say, I'm going vegan. They start only eating plant food and they start cutting out everything else and they get healthier. But what is that everything else? Was that everything else just meat and dairy? Or was it everything else also the processed stuff and the sugar and then this and then that? So, yes, of course, when you're getting away from that, then yeah, you are going to feel better. But again, whatever. And I lived that way. I did a lot of different types of plant-based eating. I was fruitarian for a while. I was only eating fruits and nuts and seeds. I was more legumes. I was more whole foods, more raw. I tried all the different kinds. You with grains, without grains, with rice, without rice, all the different things. After a good amount of time, my body was missing something. No matter what arrangement I tried, my body was missing something. And that something was definitely the healthy fats, and my joints just didn't feel lubricated. They didn't feel good. And yeah, eventually I went through a bit of a philosophical shift in myself again, where I was like, okay, maybe eating meat isn't evil or bad or whatever. And I started eating the animal products as clean as I can afford to as well. And now I'm mostly an animal product or meat consumer, the meats, the dairies. And when I made that transition back, or really just that shift, then again, I experienced a massive positive shift in health again. And all of a sudden, my body was like, yes, let's go. We're getting what we needed now. So I think you'd agree that there is no one way to eat
No,
for
no,
humans. And
yeah.
even for the same human, what's right for you right now might not be right for you next year, might not be right for you the year after that. And so the only healthy thing to do is continually adapt and not be so locked in to one philosophy or dogma of thinking this is going to be always. You always have to observe the results that you're getting and consider if it's the optimal approach or if perhaps there are other things. That's the only way to do it.
You know what? I never thought I'd say I agree, but I do. I've gotten to the point in my life where I feel that as a coach and as a mom, as a grandmother, as a great grandmother, as a friend, I mean, when you put it all together, I think that, or it is my research and and my opinion only, that not one thing is created equal. I mean, a pair of size 8 shoes may fit me beautifully, but then if I try a different brand, it might be too small, and I have to change the sizing a little bit more. And so when at first, I think that when somebody's very toxic, a whole food plant-based diet is like remarkable. But and Dr. Joel Furman has come on in the classroom to talk about, what are some of the things that plant-based eaters need to keep in mind? There's the D levels, zinc, and there's omega-3s or omegas, DHA, EPA, and if we need to make sure that we also do those things. So there could be that, because I wasn't taking any supplements back then.
Yeah.
And it could be that has a lot to do with it. But, I really do believe that what works for me doesn't work for everybody. So as a result, I have a little bit more of a balanced eating, but I gravitate more towards plants. That is my husband, however, he gravitates more towards meat because, and somebody, I asked Dr. Neil Barnard about the blood typing diet, and he said that that's not real, But when I ask somebody who's a plant-based eater and they thrive on plant-based eating, they're usually an A positive. That's my blood typing. And with my husband, he's like, I think he's an O positive. It seems like people with O blood or AB, whatever, they seem to be more animal. I don't know. That's just my anecdotal research here, but I don't know. Is there a philosophy that beat cancer? I know you said at the beginning it started off with whole food plant-based, but is there a philosophy for prevention for beatcancer.org? Because I think that that's where we need to be always, in that preventative mode towards a particular diet.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and yes, prevention and proactive behavior is always better than being reactive and allowing yourself to come down with a cancer. Because the way I see cancer on a personal level is that it is just the body's alarm bells. It is the body screaming and saying, hey, you have been mistreating me in some regard, whether it's physical poison, emotional poison, a combo of the two, and I can't take it anymore. Our body is strong, our body is resilient, our body has wonderful detoxification pathways and ways to deal with toxins and tuck them away so you don't have to deal with them. But it can only take so much until that area becomes so toxic it turns cancerous. Is there an official beatcancer.org recommendation for prevention versus healing? It's pretty much going to be the same, right? But I just want to raise the point that it's really funny how much of a clash there is between plant eaters and animal eaters. That's so unnecessary.
It is.
There's more agreements than there is disagreements.
Yes.
They both parties agree. Don't eat processed things.
Yeah.
Stay away from the sugar. Don't eat artificial things. Most people agree grains are nasty, pesticides are nasty. Try to be organic, right? And both sides are under attack in the quality that's available. And that's where so much nuance comes in, because that's what makes it really hard to be either of those sides, because the vegetables of today are depleted. Modern industrial agriculture has rendered most vegetables and fruits virtually worthless mineral-wise, while also being pumped up, loaded with sugar. A lot of the vegetables are fake. They're not even real vegetables, so they're not really decoded by the body properly. Simultaneously, the agriculture on the cattle side, they're fed a bunch of soy and corn and GMO stuff, so now the meat is loaded with stuff. You got to watch out for that. Both sides are under attack in the regards to their quality, and it's important that we come together, I think, and say, hey, whether you're eating plants or you're eating meats, it should be real, it should be clean, it should be organic. We should not eat food-like products that are passed to us as food. There's more agreements. If you do that, and avoid those things, eat your plants, eat your vegetables, or eat your meats, whatever calls to you, you'll be in a better place. And so in regards to beatcancer.org's official recommendation for prevention, we recommend being mindful of those kinds of things. Do not consume poison. Now, what does that mean? Diet? Yeah. Try not to consume pesticides, artificial things, this, that, sugar, bad. But also your diet is much more than just what you eat. Your diet is also what you put on your skin. What kind of lotions, soaps, perfumes? What are you cleaning your house with? What's in your air? What's in your water? What are you bathing in? All of these things in the modern world have unfortunately been riddled with chemicals and nasty things that over time, it's like death by a thousand cuts, contribute to cancer. Is one thing pinpointed as a cause in a particular instance? Not necessarily. That's why you got to be conscious of everything, down to what fabrics are you wearing? Are you wearing polyester fabrics that are leaching plastics into your skin all the time? Ladies, what kind of feminine products are you exposing your body to in the very sensitive area? There's so much going on the physical side of things that the average person isn't considering, much to their disservice. Cancer is not random, it's a result. It's not random, it's a result. Even if you don't know what contributed to arriving at that result, it's not random. I don't care what your genetics are. I don't care what your family had. I care about what choices you have made. That said, is there a genetic component? Yes. Can a person who has damaged DNA and in an unhealthy state pass along damaged DNA to their child because they've reproduced in a state of having damaged DNA? Well, yeah, obviously that's pretty basic, isn't it? But can that person, through their lifestyle choices, heal that DNA and repair that DNA? Yes, and yes, scientifically, and yes, proven. That's epigenetics. That's the part that's left out. There's genetics, there's epigenetics. Our founder would always say, it's maybe your genetics have loaded the gun, but it's your lifestyle choices that are going to fire it. And I add on to it that it's your lifestyle choices that can also unload that gun.
Yeah. You know,
But
did I tell you I interviewed Dr. Bruce Lipton? I tell you, the first time I interviewed him was in 2013, and I had the privilege of interviewing him again just recently. And that interview saved my life because I thought I was a victim of my DNA. I really thought. But in my lifestyle choices, I was choosing things differently than my family, and I was experiencing different things than my family, good or bad or ugly, it doesn't matter. But still, I saw that, you may have that DNA, but how it expresses itself has a lot to do with the way we believe about ourselves, our traumas, the way we eat, drink, sleep, act, and handle stress, all those things. I've had some incredible teachers that have taught that. And but here's the thing, that when you are looking at food, and you're even looking at organic, it was Joe Pizzorno, that he's a naturopathic doctor who started Bastyr University and taught a lot of naturopaths as well. He said that there is something that's happening in the food industry, which is to your credit. What you're saying is there's something that's happening where they tested food, vegetables, and things, and gave it to animals.
Yeah.
And if the animals died, then we needed to go back to the drawing board. If they survived, not necessarily thrived, then those were the ingredients that they allowed in these new genetically modified foods. So they're called an unimportant molecule. So they started taking out these molecules from these foods that are going to cause in the future much more damage than we could ever think about. So it's very important that we know our food, know our sources, and I agree. We all agree on that. That is something that's very important. But here's the thing: people with BRCA gene, 50% of people that have that gene get cancer. But what they don't talk about are the 50% that don't get it. What did they do different? And I really believe that if we were to focus on that, then cancer would be a thing of the past, because we would be able to prove once and for all that how that epigenetics that you were talking about, how important that is. And then on top of that, the quality of the food that we're putting in our body. But we do have to look at stress, and I personally need to manage that in my life much better. But those are things that we get to decide, that trigger, and how we push the trigger. And that is what we talk about in the classroom. And I'm just going to talk about really quick about the classroom and some of the things that we're doing right now. And we're so excited to get Zakariya Frank in the classroom. He impressed me as a wonderful, that he really cares about all of us. And that's why I wanted to highlight beatcancer.org today. But this is where we take 100% responsibility. Go to whenyouneedafriend.com. This is where we learn that we are what we eat, but we are what we think, and we are what we do as well. And that's not who we are, that's what we do. And we can change it. We can change all those things. And that's what, if you created cancer or if you created disease, the good news is you can uncreate it. This is the best news I can share with you today. So go to whenyouneedafriend.com. While you're there, please subscribe, like and follow me on all social media. Make sure that you share this video. This is a way that you can help the classroom grow, as well as beatcancer.org. All of us are in this together. While you're there, check out my sponsors, support them the way that they're supporting the classroom. Also, you can go to my Shop Now bag and look at Lilly approved products from head to toe, even pain management without any pills. That's what I did when I had the 4 herniated discs after my accident, and saved myself very serious surgery. So with that, just check it out. And there's one thing that I really want you to look at, which is there's so many different events that we've done in the classroom, workshops that you can look at. We've got even the spiritual side with Dr. Lorraine Day. We have 2 DVDs that you can look at as well, the Book of Revelation with Dr. Day, and the 100 Lessons from the Exodus. Faith is very important too in our life, and we need to really trust in a higher power as well. So those are things that I'm really proud of that I was able to do with Dr. Lorraine Day. We all miss her dearly. And last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom. So whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month or a one-time donation, whatever you can do, putting emojis and putting comments, that helps with the algorithms not squashing this information. This information needs to get out, and it's in your hands. So please share generously. Please give generously. And today we have Zakariya Frank, who is in the classroom, and he is the marketing officer, the chief marketing officer for beatcancer.org. I love the philosophy. Thank you so much for taking the time to come into the classroom, because I did not know that there was this kind of coaching out there. And I've got a client right now that as soon as we're done, I'm going to give her your information so that they can take advantage of this generosity that you guys are having and that you guys are doing. So is there anything that you would like to share about beatcancer.org that really spoke to your heart that you would like to share with everybody that is listening today and tomorrow and in the future?
Yeah, and that just it ties back into the kind of the second half of what I was saying before, in that we are a comprehensive and truly holistic organization. The food is but a small piece of the pie that we talk about in regards to what may have contributed to a cancer diagnosis and what may get rid of it and heal it. Food is one thing, physical poison is one thing, but another thing is the emotional side of things, like you touched on, the traumas, the lifestyles. Our founder always said it's not just about what you're eating, it's what's eating you. And people don't realize how tied our physical vessel is with our emotional body, with our mental health. And it's been studied scientifically. That's the thing. That's the thing for the non-believers. There's already the science. There's been scientific observations of certain personality traits, certain negative, unhealthy emotional patterns and behaviors correlating with certain specific types of cancer. And this is where conventional, or one of the places, conventional unfortunately fails so much, because I don't care what you do to hack out a tumor or to radiate it or to chemically attack it, whatever, if you didn't address the root cause. If that person still has trouble with their family, trouble with their mother, trouble at their job, all these different things, trouble letting go of the past, and that emotional poison is poisoning them from within. I don't care what you do to attack the tumor otherwise, unless you heal the host. that cancer is going to come back. Hopefully not, but occurrence is quite high because of that. And so that's why I really enjoy becancer.org, or one of the many reasons, aside from the wonderful community and my business partner, Carl. It's a bit of everything. And that's why I introduced at the very beginning how fitting this organization was into my life and my area of study, and how much I love purporting it, because everything that we talk about in regards to cancer is also just in regards to living a healthy life overall. Whether you ever think about cancer or not, whether you think you're so-called predisposed to it or not, you should be avoiding physical poison. You should be trying to avoid emotional poison. Stress manage your stress. You should learn how to detoxify yourself, because no matter how clean you eat now, there's environmental toxins, and our body has wonderful detoxification pathways, like we said, but it can only take so much. Sometimes it needs it needs some help through bodily movement and bodily, physical intervention, or certain supplements. I'm not a supplement pusher. I'm not a, take this magic pill or anything. Some of them are just, they're great stuff. Um, that's the take home message, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, that's a great take home message. So do you have, because how long have you been working with beatcancer.org?
I believe since July of 2023.
Okay. So, I mean, they've been around for 36 years. So there's, or 37 years. Yeah.
46. Yeah.
Oh, 46 years. Sorry. And so when you look at the the time that you've heard from the coaches, from your business partner, from the people that you've coached, are there any stories that stick out as, man, I am in the right place at the right time?
Lily, you asked me this question that would require days to respond to in full.
Maybe when you come back, we'll start there.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
I know a few of them that stick out for you.
yeah, the first one that's most beautiful, I think, is of our founder, and I really want to pay homage to her if I can.
Mhm.
The reason that we are here at all having this conversation, and the reason tens of thousands of people all around the world, perhaps even more than that, have been helped, is because of our founder, Susan. Susan Silverstein was a career woman, a professional, a linguist, and a loving wife. And Susan's husband ended up getting cancer. This was, 50x years ago. And Susan's husband went the conventional route, and Susan got to watch him suffer the consequences of going such a route. His quality of life, his will to live, his health overall
Mhm.
just sharply was declining. I'll keep it short. She thought there had to be a better way. She didn't know what it was, but she thought there had to be a better way. So she dedicated her life to finding that better way. There was no internet. There was no www dot anything. So she went to libraries, opened books, went to research conventions, called up doctors, traveled around, did everything she could to learn, to try to help and heal her husband. The more she learned, the more she realized that there was hope. Unfortunately, his cancer at that point was rather aggressive, and he wasn't necessarily very receptive to the help that she was learning. He ended up dying exactly when the doctor said he was going to die. That brings in an interesting question. Are doctors fortune tellers? Are they that good? Or when they tell you, hey, you're going to die April 8th, this, that, whatever, they keep saying it, you keep repeating it to ourselves. Is our mind so powerful that it can command our body to shut down in such a way? Perhaps. Of course, she was devastated. Any loving wife would be, any family member, period, would be. It's someone they love, just experienced that. And so, from that devastation, she formed her life's mission to not allow that to happen to anyone else if she could help it. And so that's what she spent the rest of her working years doing. All the ways that she learned, she just wanted to get the info back out there as much as possible. So she wrote books, she did speaking events, she trained other doctors, she trained other counselors, this, that, the other. Because it comes from pain. Like you said, like anyone knows, most people will have had at least one person in their life that has been affected in some way by cancer. And it's devastating. There's wives out there without husbands, husbands without wives, children without parents, parents without children, because people have died with cancer. But it doesn't have to be that way. And everyone in my organization agrees, and we all have the mission, no matter what it means, no matter what the avenue, the pathway, the specific philosophy, we all just want to help because we know that these people out here do not have to be suffering. And so we all just want to play a part.
I think that's great. I'm glad that you shared her story because it's important that people need to know that out of adversity comes our brilliance. That's when we shine. And I know that many of us think that blessing comes in good fortune, but I believe that sometimes blessing comes in ugly wrapping paper, that when we open it curiously and we're grateful for the gift, that it's amazing how we discover the beauty of something tragic. And, it took a life to bring cancer, beatcancer.org. It took several lives to bring the McDermott Holistic Healing Foundation to the surface, and it's being reignited. And so those are things that we're called to do, is to look at the adversity in our life. As a coach, when we look through adversity and my clients are talking to me about the pain in their life, and I'm thinking, yes, this is great, this is going to be great. And they're like, okay, how? So then we go back and we look back and we dig and we find the beauty of it, to the point where we can be grateful for all the things, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That requires a level of wisdom that could have only come from that devastating time in our life. And the housing crisis, so many people lost everything. How many new positions and new jobs were created because of it? The latest pandemic, how many different opportunities have come up from there too? So, I mean, has this been a case for you, that you seek wisdom in do you seek wisdom in the not so graceful moments of your life?
All things have their equal and opposite. I think to expect to live a good or positive or strong or achieving life without suffering the relative opposite is naive and impossible. I think all greatness comes from adversity, and there is no other way. I think that's a natural law of this world.
Yeah. For sure, for sure. And I'm grateful that you've been able to come on the classroom today and share your perspective and the good work that you're doing now in your life. Um, what kind of advice would you give to someone who is just been told that they have cancer, or maybe found out someone they love have cancer? What advice would you give in the perspective of beatcancer.org for someone to feel hopeful?
Well, those are two very different questions. What someone could do for themselves, I'll answer first, because if you yourself have an illness that you are concerned about, start empowering yourself immediately. Well, one, stay calm, because the stress over an instance can kill you faster sometimes than even whatever's going on itself, firstly. So try to stay calm, understand that mostly anything can be healed from. Assess what might be the contributing factors, assess what physical and emotional poisons you might be exposing yourself to or have been exposed to in the past, and then decide what avenue you want to go and pursue it relentlessly, because you are worth it. You must be your own advocate and on your own team and your own general in the fight. Hire the right team, whether that's our in-house counselor, whether it's one of our several coaches that you could find on our directory. They all have their assorted contact information. Who resonates with you? Come to our weekly calls that are totally free, and we can, answer questions directly there. You don't have to be alone. But the people around you might leave you feeling alone. If, like Lily was saying, they don't agree with your, direction that you want to go, whatever. So find your tribe. There's people out there to support you. Make empowered decisions. For someone else, that's a whole other circumstance, because we cannot help anyone beyond how they want to be helped. And that's a sad and unfortunate thing to accept. But I don't care if it's your mother, your father, your wife, your husband, your child, your best friend, your boss, your coworker, whatever. If you're trying to ramrod even the best of information down their throats and they're not willing and able to receive it and accept it, well, then that's not doing anyone any good. You're just going to probably damage a relationship, annoy them with you, stress them out. You got to chill out. So if you have information and empower yourself with information, present it to them, see if they're receptive, and then try to be there as someone to empower them or get them the resources they need. But everyone's individual health is their own individual responsibility. You can't save anyone or everyone. It has to come from within. So don't stress yourself out trying to save someone from their own decisions. They are sovereign adults, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's funny because, figuring out that it was not my job to save anybody was very freeing, because I thought as a coach, I needed to get them through the other side and get them there, or not even as a coach, as a friend or someone you love, getting them to that other side to make the right decision. It's not up to me. That's up to God. I'm not here to save. I'm here to point people in the direction that I think that would be best. But if they don't think so, it's up to God to save. It's not up to me. And so that was so freeing to me that I can just listen to somebody make their choice, and it's their choice. Even though I may have chosen something different for myself, I'm still there to support them 100%. So that's wonderful advice. And I'm sure that everybody's taking notes for that one. And lastly, I just have to tell you that, when you talk about we need to be our own advocate, I always say we need to be our own MD, our own medical detective, and be about learning more about ourselves. And I see that we have so much in common, and I'm looking forward to maybe fostering this relationship and seeing how we can all work together for the greater good. So thank you so much, Zakariya, for coming into the classroom and sharing your wisdom with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, Lily. I really enjoy your presence, and like I said before, your language towards these matters as well. I think you are a very intelligent and wise individual. So,
well, thank you very much. That was worth the whole thing. No, I'm just joking. It was nice. It's nice to find like-mindedness. It surely is. And that's what we are doing here in the classroom. And I hope that you will continue to learn and grow with us. And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Zakariya Frank, wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. Good job. That was the best ever.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert